One thing I have never wanted to feel is trapped in a job. Like you've built a lifestyle and you hate your job, but you can't leave the job because it pays the bills of your expensive lifestyle. So, this is a little bit about my journey as someone who climbed the ladder in their 20s, bought a home in California at 29, and has unraveled all of that in the past 3 years. This is my perspective. I'm not asking you to agree with it. It's just my journey, and I'm sharing it so that you know that you get to choose what your life looks like and you're never stuck and you're never trapped in a job. So, I did the typical thing of graduating from college, was an overachiever, got a job in Chicago in consulting. Long story short, climbed my way up to a marketing director at 30, moved out to California. My husband and I moved out here uh, for the time at the time my job and that company paid for us to relocate. So I was very successful on paper by all means. But as I climbed, as I took on more promotions, more pay, came with that was something I could have never predicted, which is a lot of stress and anxiety. I've never been someone who can handle pressure very well. I know some people thrive under that, but for me, it was like putting fuel on fire. I started to feel like I wasn't myself. I was just going to work, coming home stressed, sleeping, and then repeating that vicious cycle. And time was just escaping me. I felt like I wasn't really living my life. I had nothing to talk about outside of work. And I was showing up, doing the movements. Everyone was applauding, but I inside was feeling pretty miserable. So at 30, I quit my job cold turkey with no backup plan, just some savings, and took 8 months off. And that was life changing. It really gave me the reset that I needed. Well, meanwhile, my husband and I had bought a beautiful home in California that had a pretty hefty mortgage, nothing outrageous, but high enough that it requires us to stay in high paying jobs. And in California, that's totally possible. The pay here is good. Like we could have kept living that life, easily paid our bills every month. But we looked up a couple years ago and said, what are we doing this for? For context, we don't have kids right now. We're not planning to unless something changes. We had moved away far from our families. My husband's family is from Ecuador, still lives there. My family is from Indiana. And we were like, what are we doing all this for? We're working crazy hours. He was coming home most nights at 8. I was working remote, but I was so miserable. And then I had to go back into an office. Anyways, we were just working our lives away just to put this beautiful roof over our heads. But we were missing out on a lot of crucial moments with family, being around family for the holidays. And we just had several deep conversations about like, what are we doing this for? Who are we doing this for? I no longer cared about climbing the corporate ladder. I had left my corporate job to work in a restaurant, start my coaching business. And that made my husband realize like he didn't want to be doing a 2-hour commute every day, working some crazy amount of hours and then missing out on life. Then his dad went through a pretty dramatic health scare. And thank gosh he's okay. But that changed everything for us. We were like, if this is not a sign, I don't know what is. And so we decided to sell our home. We've owned our home for 4 years. And as amazing as that is, like I'm very, I guess, proud of owning a home at such a young age. Really, I just want to say I don't think it's all it's chalked up to be because home ownership comes with so much responsibility. It is true what your parents say, which is like, not only do you have the bills, but you have the unforeseen things that come up. Maybe your water heater breaks or your AC goes out. And it's just never ending. We were never DIY people either. So should have thought about that maybe before buying a house. Like we did not want to do fixer upper stuff. So everything was just a little bit of a headache and kind of stressful and also way too much space. So I never thought I'd be looking forward to going back to apartment living, but we're going to be living in a 2-bedroom apartment, very spacious, where maintenance is taken care of. It's going to be a lot more easy, I would say. And not only that, the cost is going to be more than half less than what we're paying in California of what we're going to be paying in Florida. And that is such a weight off of our shoulders. I feel like it gives us both more freedom to not have to just live to work and instead explore creative things and things that bring us happiness and maybe choose a job because we enjoy it, not just for the money. And that to me is an amazing feeling. Oh, and not only that, we're going to be a lot closer to family, which you can't put a price on. So I don't know if I'll ever own a home again. I would have to think twice before I do. Now, the exception to that, the big asterisk would be if you have cash saved and you can go buy a home for 300-400 grand with cash and not pay interest, and or you're just hella rich, that's a different story. I'm talking about a middle class couple who still has to work pretty hard to pay the bills. And I don't know that homeownership is in my cards for the foreseeable future. Again, that may change, but I just want to say I don't think it's all it's chalked up to be. And renting is not necessarily a bad strategy depending on where you're at. I'm going to get off my soapbox now.